Hello and welcome to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
And we're excited to have you on today's show. We have a wonderful guest today, Alexa Rundquist, the Executive Director of Rotary District 5950. We're super excited to talk.
Second time we've had her.
Second time, yeah. Part two.
She's a good guest.
She's a pretty integral part of Rotary. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those linchpins. So we're excited to hear more about what.
Learn a little bit about some membership stuff, but also what the district's doing, and just kind of understanding Rotary above the club level.
Speaking about what the district is doing, there's a great event that's coming up, Chad.
Yeah.
Elevating Impact Together, Friendship and Funds Fest.
Yep. Coming up next weekend, the 27th on Saturday. It's from 8 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. at the Plymouth Community Center. There's a lot of stuff going on, but at bare minimum, you'll be able to come and have some conversation with friends. You can get some pastries.
Breakout sessions.
Yeah, and then they get into some breakout sessions, really trying to support clubs and show some success that other clubs have had. You know, they're going to talk about some of the music festivals and how big those have been for clubs, talk about some pull tabs.
Did you say that you can get a headshot too?
Yep.
That's what's going to bring me there.
Yep. You can do a headshot. That they got a professional photographer. So for your LinkedIn profile, your social media profile.
Does it cost anything?
Nope. It's free. It's free to attend. And if you're interested, if your organization is interested in having a booth to share the work you're doing, you can also register to have a booth at it. And where do you get the Rotary District website? 5950's website is where the.
And if you're having trouble finding it, listening to the show, go ahead and email the show, and we'll get you connected.
And I'll put the link in the description here. So if you want to get tickets or get registered, it's a free event, so you don't need tickets. But if you want to get registered, if you're interested in a booth, I'll have that link in our description for the show.
Yep.
So check it out. I'm looking forward to being there. We're going to have a table there, so you can stop by and say hi to me. We're searching for service. Give us some feedback, or if you got some show ideas, we're always interested.
Love it.
Yeah. So
love it.
The Elevating Impact Together, Friendship and Funds Fest. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister.
But I get where they're going with it. The funds, because the money drives and brings in more opportunities to serve. But yeah, check it out next Saturday, January 27th, Plymouth Community Center.
Well, I'm excited to get into the interview here. So
yeah, we're excited to have Alexa again. You're going to hear some good stories and also learn. That's
right.
Part of it.
So we're going to get into the interview next here, but we're going to take a quick break.
And thank you for listening. I'm Chad Larson.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll be back.
Hello, welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
And we are brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and
Russell
Hampton.
Check out the swag if you're watching on the camera. They sent over some tumblers, some cutting board, and some cool stuff. The #1 printer for Rotary.
Yeah, amazing support, and we're so grateful for their contributions.
Yep, thank you.
And we have Alexa Rundquist with us. She's the District Executive Director. 5950, pretty much the Swiss Army knife, and Miss Consistent.
Thank you. That's very
One of the few two-time guests.
That's right, two-time guest.
We're excited.
And speaking of the district, we do have an event coming up.
Yeah, we talked about it before break, but the Elevating Impact Together, Friendship and Fun Fest coming up next weekend on the 27th. You can sign up at the district website, free event. It's at the Plymouth Community Center next Saturday, 8 a.m.
And we'll have the link in the show page.
So check it out.
Hi, Alexa.
Well, welcome.
How are you?
Good. How are you, boys?
Excellent.
Very good. Very good. Missing Kelly, but our host. But we're pulling it together today as best we could. Well,
it is funny. I do joke with her all the time. I'm like, you do realize you are the lead dog, right? She's like, what?
She sits in the chair.
It's true. When I knew I was going to be late, who did I text?
Yeah,
Kelly.
It's hilarious. I'm like, I got to text her Kelly. It's hilarious. So.
No, but you made him plenty of time. And so today we want to kind of talk about understanding the district and, also what your what you've learned and, what people should know, and, just kind of general conversation. We had such a great conversation last time, and we just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more.
And I think so much of what we talk about at the district is so valuable for any person that's listening to this, not just Rotarians, but people that are really thinking about service organizations and how to join them, or what are the attributes of a service organization that are important. What are the things that service organizations are struggling with and that are trying to, really approach and go at as we're trying to attract new members and really make Rotary specifically an attractive place for not only established members, but new members.
Yes,
yes.
I agree. Well, the district's the one that gets to oversee all the clubs and kind of gets to see everything that's happening. So here's the good and the bad, and gets to, move those forward. And also is the kind of the intersect between all the information that's coming down from all the larger parts. Or, the larger organization, Rotary International, our zone, our region. So
what does it go? Club, district, zone, region, international?
Yes. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
we were talking.
We learned a thing or two.
As only a year in, I feel like I know more about the structure than most, and that's why I thought it was a good opportunity to get the show to talk to you about, because I don't think many people really understand, how the structure works, even as you go above the club. And so that's I've learned a lot because of the show, but I think that's pretty unique. That I've talked to some of our members, and I mentioned something like, I don't know, they've been members for 20 years. And so
I always think of the district as the transformer. Like it steps down so you get the big stream of information from Rotary International, and then it kind of comes down the funnel, and then it gets to the district level, and it really gets stepped down to the club level, and it's more palatable, right? Because just think about it, if all the clubs got all of the Rotary International communication,
how much do you have to sift through?
I think the first word you were thinking of was probably the right one.
I think it's even it's not from Rotary International, because it breaks down to the zones, right? And then the zones are kind of grouped together, and each of them has a director, and those 17 directors are what make up the board of directors. And I think that's a really important piece that I never even knew about until I went to zone training. And then a lady said, "Oh, you guys don't know how the board of directors is made up?" And she drew a little diagram, and it was like, kaboom. Oh, that makes so sense. But then zone is there, and really zone is to train your district leaders. So
Sure.
They're the ones that are, filtering it out. People you've spoken to, Alex Johnson and Lloyd Campbell. And those are those zone leaders that come down and they filter it down to our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have to sift through as much as you think, because zone is really doing that for us.
So there's multiple transformers.
Exactly.
To use my analogy.
Yes. All I can picture is like a transformer car when you say that,
that's
like
what I was
the
thinking,
toy.
not the energy transformer. That
Yes.
made sense when he explained it. So.
Yeah.
I think of a big pole with the transformer thing.
The power pole.
The power pole. Okay. All right. Never mind. Moving on. My analogies are so good.
So how long have you been in the role as executive director?
So in this role, 3 years, and previous to that, it was kind of broken out to organizational and finance. And I did the organizational piece. And prior to that, all I did was registrations for like the fun event you talked about earlier. Because I just did
Funds event.
Yeah, I named it. I should be able to say it. But yeah, so all I did was registration for that. And that was kind of cool, because that really got me to understand. That's where I met so many people.
Sure.
And really got to say, like, when I sit at a registration booth, I can know about 70% of the people when they walk in.
Wow.
Well, and for our listeners too, if you want more backstory on Alexa, you definitely tune into the first episode. You kind of understand why she's here.
Yeah.
And so like, it's kind of nice in this episode that we get to dive into some of the more, technical things of the district versus
let's not get too technical.
Not too technical. Do you know what I mean? But we kind of heard your story already, which is really inspiring for those, wanting to be inspired. Listen to Alexa's first first show is really, really special. But we get to talk about the district today, and we get to talk about, because a lot of our members don't know a lot about the district. And then specifically anybody that on here that's not a Rotarian is going, the what?
Yeah.
The who?
Right. I still hear people say, you hear presidents coming in, what is the district? So, we have so many. First, we have to get Rotary out to the public so they know what it is. Yeah. And then once you're a Rotarian, we need you to understand what the district does and how they can serve you. And then what the zone does and how they serve us. And then what Rotary International does and how they serve us. And then kind of that step up. So, but I'm just one person. I think the big thing about the district is it's a huge organizational chart, about 38 people this year, and it's relatively small this year. So it fluctuates with district governor initiatives, and also who says yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Rotary way.
Right. And that can also fluctuate just given your district governor. So we're relatively small this year. We just coming back from COVID is a big part of it. People still, there's a group that doesn't want to get out. We're still getting our feet back in. So
it sounds like an amazing opportunity too, for those that are either Rotarians at the club level that are looking for maybe something different to do, is to serve at the district level.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. I think this is where you can really find your passion and help other people in understanding it. My husband is an assistant governor. He loved mentorship in his job. And I said, I think you would be great mentoring other clubs. And so he's an assistant governor. And what that looks like is they kind of have anywhere from 5 to 7. It's just, it's geographical in this case. And he has 5 clubs that he works with just to mentor them and share information. So not everything has to come from one office or one voice, or different approach, different way of thinking. That's a really good opportunity. We're always looking for those. And the best thing about assistant governors is you can say, I want 2 clubs or I want 20 clubs.
Sure.
Well, you kind of pick.
You can kind of pick.
Time, but also geographic, I'm sure too. Yeah.
So as you go in greater Minnesota, it gets really widespread. So you have to travel a lot. So like in the Wilmer area, they split it. They only each have 3 clubs. And then if you get into area 3, which is like your Edina, Eden Prairie, the Southern Metro, they do a lot more clubs because it's just not so time consuming.
5-minute, 10-minute drive between.
Exactly.
Or Edina, 2 in the same same place.
Yeah.
As we were talking there, what is the thing that drives people to get active at that club level? I mean, you have your husband, you've done that, but is there something that drives people, or is it just getting exposure?
The district level or the club level?
I'm sorry, the district level.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Is there kind of an entry point?
I think it's when they see, I don't know so much an entry point, but I think being asked, that's a big thing, right? So being asked, because not everybody knows those opportunities out there, but it's when you say, for example, like, oh, hey, Joe, you've got such a passion for food shelves, and I'm looking to do something with food shelves. Well, if he's already inspired by that and knows how it changes people's lives, he's most likely your best advocate out there. We have our incoming, our just elected, so it hasn't been voted on by the clubs, but district governor, he has a deep passion for the foundation, and he truly believes in that. And so he's a champion for that simply because he believes it in his heart. I don't have to tell him anything. He doesn't need a lot of education because he already believes it. And I think that's the big one.
Yeah.
I think the entry point, really often they don't seek us, we seek them.
Yeah.
So a lot of going to meetings and just observing and talking, and try not to sit with your friends, but sit with the new people so you can learn about them. And
what are the roles specifically in a club that have the most interaction with the district? So obviously the club president's going to have a lot, but are there other roles that have more interaction with the district than others?
Yeah, I think there's really the kind of the 3-legged stool. So our president-elects have a lot of interaction, and we really, in the last 3 years, have really pushed to have more interaction with them, to educate them. They do get training from a zone team, from a president-elect training seminar, but that doesn't give them the local training and some of the nuts and bolts, some of that computer knowledge I've talked about before. Even now, they wouldn't hear about the podcast. So those are things that we're doing locally. So we touch base with them monthly. We touch base with our presidents quarterly. And that's like face-to-face on a computer, like a Zoom meeting or something. Yep. And then the other ones would be your foundation chairs, your membership chairs, and your public image chairs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just thinking of like, if there's somebody that's listening to the show and goes, okay, I'm not going to I'm not necessarily ready to help at the district level yet, but maybe I can serve in a role that has a little bit more interaction with the district to get a little bit more information, a little bit more comfort, and then say yes the next time.
Yeah.
So those are the nice roles then to be focusing on, is a lot of the chairs.
Yep.
Membership, especially. I could see that one being a big one.
Yeah.
And then
huge.
What about TRF?
That's the Rotary Foundation.
That's the Rotary Foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that plays a big part. And when you get into that role, you're also kind of getting into the grants.
Yep.
And understanding the grants. The thing about the district is, if you see something maybe that bothers you, you want to improve on.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity.
Right. An opportunity. It can be something like, anything. It can be a role per se. Because not everything has to be these big chairs, right? We do have a big membership chair. We do have a polio chair, but there are smaller roles. If I have a lady who kindly will read the newsletter for me before I send it out and say, hey, that just do A, B, and C. Okay, thank you. And that's a role at the district. No, her name doesn't appear anywhere on the chart, but that is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And I think like the elevating impact together, that there's a huge piece. If you're just interested in like training, event planning, getting to know, if you just want to get to know more people, there's a place for you. You just have to come to us and say, hey, I'm kind of interested, and we'll fit you in where you want.
That's great.
And no commitment. I'm not going to make you sign any papers that say you're here for life or you have to give 40 hours or anything like that. We want to be flexible to where people are in their lives.
That makes sense. You know, one thing we've seen is all the different clubs that have really successful either events or programs. What is your role to then try and show that to other clubs, or do you connect them, or, because we're lucky in our district. I think there's a lot of really successful, whether it's pre-K or some of the music festivals or concerts to volunteer. But so what does that look like for you do you identify, or is it kind of pretty apparent when something's really successful? And then how do you connect those?
I think there's 3 ways they get identified. I will start to notice. I do a lot of like late night deep dive reading of articles. I'll just, search Rotary and read a lot of articles, browse the websites, do their Facebook. Our district governor will notice. Yeah. And then you'll get a club who's super excited and proud of what they do. And so they tell us, and that makes our job really easy.
Yep.
Sure.
But, they're Rotarians, so that is not very often. Yeah. Oftentimes it will be Chad promoting Joe. It won't be Joe coming forward and saying he championed this great gala and it raised, $50,000 or whatever like that. So it's looking for it. And then there's a couple different ways. What do we do with that? Do we just promote their success? Is it something we can duplicate? And that's what I keep going back to this event. But that's what this event is all about, is duplicating success stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And I'll use my own club, for example. We did a membership drive, and it was called Service Above Self Social. And it was a membership drive. We had 47 potential members come to a brewery in downtown Hopkins. And that really turned over about 8 new members, which is incredibly successful when you look at membership drives. And so how do we duplicate that? Well, we started sharing about it, but we also put together I really pushed our team to put together a handout with actionable items on that.
Yeah.
And then luckily Nate is also a Minnetonka Rotarian, my husband, and he turned it around and pushed it out as assistant governor. And so it's finding those avenues to get it out and having those clubs really be the ones who share it. It shouldn't be the district sharing it. We want to continue to promote the clubs to share it out.
Can we talk about that event for just 2 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I think that this show is promoting membership. I mean, really at its core, and you just shared an incredible event.
Yeah.
of, it sounds like how did the invite happen? What was
everybody bring somebody? Did you
how did
market
that
it?
because
I'm so interested when you brought that up.
It seems like
sorry to go in a different direction real quick, but that
No, but I could tell you we're doing a breakout on January 27th if you want to come learn more. But yeah, some of the highlights of it. So the first thing, so I brought some really technical membership knowledge.
Okay.
And things like, we're never going to say the word membership.
No.
Initially, it was called the Minnetonka Rotary Club membership drive. Well, nobody wants to be a statistic.
Yeah.
You know, Kelly and I don't want to be the young mom.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're out, you know, right away. So we nixed the word membership.
There's a permanence to membership too. That
exactly.
Kind of, you're like, oh.
Yeah. So that was a big thing that I think really helped us, is that I really pushed them not to say it, but we weren't allowed to write it anywhere. So none of our material never did we say join.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. We spent a lot of time, using Canva to make a nice looking graphic.
Yeah.
You know, so it makes a difference. We had a professional looking graphic, and then we printed them for a little bit higher cost on a little bit glossier paper. And I do think that brings notice to it. And we used not just Facebook, we used Meetup, we used Eventbrite. And then we did personal invites, handwritten invites.
Yes.
On the glossy paper to everyone who has touched our club in some way. And then we had a team who walked the streets. Hopkins is if you're not familiar with Hopkins, it's got a real true downtown.
Yep.
Even though it's in, Minneapolis suburb, but it's got a true downtown. And though we're from Minnetonka, our roots started from the Hopkins Club.
Sure.
Yep.
And so our event was in Hopkins. And so we walked the streets of those businesses, and a group of 4 members went into each business and told them about the event and gave them an invitation. Wow. And so that was a really big thing. And then on one evening, we had a bunch of extra invitations. What are we going to do with them? We drove the neighborhoods next to where we meet and stuck them in the mailboxes, and we actually got someone.
Oh, very cool.
You literally just described my business. But no, like what I gotta say is, first of all, congratulations. That's a really successful event. And I think that you guys identified the most important component of it is just bringing people together. It's not about membership. It's not about joining. It's about exposure, right? Like it's about just getting people to it. And I think that that's the biggest hurdle of anything.
Well, not starting at a club meeting that's structured,
right?
I think that we were talking. I think that's an important aspect, because that can be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I've not been successful in bringing too many guests because and I get it, because it is a structured event. That I think that aspect is probably really important.
I think, Joe, you said a really important thing. You just described my business. So, yes, you have knowledge. This is what you do. And so often we turn that, I don't know, Rotarians kind of turn that off in their head 100%. That they're successful business people. And we need to look to those skills to turn it around. And
you mean generating meaningful relationships will drive Rotary membership?
Yeah, but it's so
crazy.
Funny that Rotary has always stayed in this box, and we need to take it out and put it on our desks, and we need to use the skills we learned from Rotary, but flip it around. And when we talk about getting younger members, I have a good friend that's a Rotaractor, and we talk about that. What does that look like? Well, she said, I spent most of my college career was online. And then everything after my networking was online. And she's like, I don't know how to network in person because of COVID. Well, that's easy. Let me help you on that. But we turned that off. And so I think that's a really important piece. And then exposure to the community. One thing that we did is we brought in not just Rotarians to speak, but we had people who had gotten money from Rotary.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's wonderful. Share the stories.
Yep.
That makes sense. And I don't know about you. I know that I can be better about inviting people to Rotary meetings and to, being more proactive. I'm as social as it comes. And I'm one of the things that I tell people, I'm like, gosh, I can connect you to anybody, anywhere, to anything. And then you go, well, wait a second. Why am I not doing that for Rotary? Because Rotary is that on steroids.
Yeah.
so it's funny that you say that. There is a disconnect. There is a true disconnect that's happening with me as a member, or now you think of somebody who's not a member, and you go, that disconnect has to be even larger than that. And it's the word that I came up with when you said you took out membership and you took out joining, permanence, is you took away the permanence, and instead you made it very just come and check it out.
Yeah.
Does it work? Great. If it does, sweet, join. If not, thanks for coming and supporting. Appreciate it.
Because now those 47 people know about Rotary, and they'll think about it in a new way. They'll look at it differently. And sometimes that's just as important as having someone in the seat, is having, a partner out there that knows what you are and says.
Are you doing it again?
Yes. Actually, we just.
In the same place?
Yes. We had our planning meeting last night.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'd like an invite to that, please.
Okay. The planning meetings, those are just as fun.
Not the planning meeting.
Well, they're at the same brewery we have the event, so there's a lot of planning per se, and just some friendship that happens there too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, I mean, what a great example of, what I really liked about that case study is it's something that we all can take away and go, wow, I just learned something major. And you don't even have to be a Rotarian for this. It's just about getting people together and educating and just exposing people to good people.
Yep. And
wherever it goes is wherever it goes. If it falls on deaf ears and, you went and you had a good beer and you just went home, fine. But if you were one of the 8 people you said that joined,
I think that's what we've come. I can count 8.
I mean, that's incredible. You do that. You do that 4 times a year and you get 8 people each time. I mean, that's an incredible return in new membership.
And it was funny. There was a Microsoft event happening. So this brewery happens to be 3 floors. There's a Microsoft event happening on the top floor. So everyone had, and the top floor didn't have because it's self-serve brewery. So they didn't have a tap up there. So they would have to come down. And they all said, oh, my dad was a Rotarian. What are you guys doing here? And again, that was just another group that had it flash in their mind. They recognized what it is.
Getting out there.
Yeah. And it goes back to like being able to change the perspective and share that story, getting our own members comfortable.
Yeah.
With sharing sharing their story, sharing what Rotary is. Because I think people are just I was mentoring a student, a high school student, and he said, I think my mom's a Rotarian. I said, you think your mom's a Rotarian? He's like, yeah, I think she goes to a meeting downtown Minneapolis over the lunch hour every week. And I was like, how could he not know that? Yeah. Right? So that obviously none of that discussion was ever happening at home. He was never able to maybe go to a service event or a social event. Mm-hmm. And so it's opening that conversation up and telling people about it. And
that's amazing. And I appreciated the little bit of a tangent because I think it's an important tangent because it actually brings us back to kind of what we're going to talk about is, engagement from the club level. And like, you were showing us some statistics from the survey. And I think we should talk a little bit about the survey because it's super important. Like this is self-diagnosed from Rotary members of the district of how we're doing.
Yeah. Share a little bit about the survey just so people understand it.
Yeah. So in 2019, we did a membership survey. And then we came back and did that survey again in 2021. Yeah, 2021. Mariana's, I have to go by district governor year. Otherwise, it doesn't work out in my head. So I apologize.
It doesn't help that it ends in the middle of the year either.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So what we did is we did a survey of all the members in our district. Mm-hmm. We averaged about 1,300 members, and we have about 2,600 at the time. So really good response rate.
Yep.
And when they did it, we were actually able to break it out by club. So each of the clubs could get their membership data based on those questions. So really serving the clubs, and
that's super helpful for the club level. My goodness, like being able to know how their club, like just the temperature, the general temperature of their club. Is it cool? Is it hot? Is it, and then you can really gear your programming towards that.
Yeah.
That's a huge resource. So thank you, district.
Yes, thank you. Well, and I always say, if you're going to have a survey, what are you going to do with those? Because let's not make people fill out surveys to fill out surveys, right?
Correct.
And I will just quickly put in a plug before I talk about the results. The district can do this survey again for you. We're now coming on 3 years, new data, new information, new Rotarians. We can do this survey for you and get it free of charge. You want to do a different type of survey, the district has the ability to do surveys and help people understand. We really want you to do them to listen.
Yeah.
And then we have visioning, people who are trained in visioning to go the next step and help you look at it and move it forward. So that was my little plug. Sorry.
Well, and I got a little plug for the show. If you joined Rotary because of this show, make sure that you say that in the survey. Thank you very much.
That's right.
So what were your takeaways?
So one of the biggest takeaways is we did what was called net promoter score. So we had Rotarians on a scale of 1 to 100 rate how likely they were to tell somebody about it.
Okay.
And when that number came back, we were a 49.
Wow.
Well, and we talked a little bit about this off air. I said 49 might be generous. You know what I mean? Like, that's good. But I tell you what, that informs you, right? Like, I'm guessing that we would have if we would have been polled before this, we'd say 75, 80. Yep. No problem. That we're all promoting Rotary, and that's some nice bit of it. I think this is the most important piece of information that you could get. Is you go, why are we struggling with membership? Oh, only 50% of us talk about it. Okay, interesting. That's a good place to start.
Right. And then they broke it out even further, which I thought was interesting. So they broke it out from 20 to 40-year-olds, and that number went up.
Yeah.
Sure.
But only to a 54, but it did go up. And then the over 40 was still stayed at a 49. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so it's like looking at why can't they? Do they not have their elevator speech? Or, is it as simple as that? Yep. Or, do they not know how to talk about it? Or is it that their experience is bad? And we did have this survey was actually not done in-house. This was contracted out by a company. And
third party?
Yes. And so they were able to kind of walk through that with us. And there's 160 pages of commentary on the district website if you really want to dig deep into it. Yeah.
You think the commentary section of the Star Trib is good? I bet you that's really good.
Letters to the editor.
What's really fascinating is, something I was thinking about is, and we talked a little bit about this in another episode, is we talked about how that first year is really interesting. Like, I spent my first year observing.
Yep.
So, it'd be really curious to understand, like, so maybe that younger demographic there's a lot more observation. So they're still trying to figure out what Rotary is to them. So it's really difficult to promote out.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in I can't remember what the stat is, but I mean, it's over a third of Rotary has been 20 plus years in Rotary. I think you got it figured out by now, and you should be able to promote it. And if anything, you got to be thinking about legacy at that point, right? Like, we've got to keep Rotary going. It's served me so much over the last 20, 30 years. How do I empower the next generation? So some of this doesn't line up, and you go, well, what's happening? Like, what's prompting this? And, I don't know if I mean, I think this is more of like a good discussion question of going, what's driving it?
Being a year in, I was talking in our last show, I still don't have a good pitch or, the right way to talk about it. And, the first thing everybody says, well, isn't that all older people? And I said, well, no, that's not the reality of our club and not the reality of what I've seen, but I'm still not doing it right because I don't bring up people as guests, but also I don't fully feel I have the right pitch. Pitch isn't the right word, but the right way I should speak about it that
value proposition
connected for me, and I think it would connect with people. But when I've talked about it, I'm missing something, and I don't know why. So I'd be interested if you have ideas on that.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't know that I had a pitch, honestly, until I had to come on first time on my podcast, and I I spoke to a district governor who gave me some advice. And she said, well, what would your elevator speech be? And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so I had to really think, like, why am I? And then I had to turn around and tell that story. Yeah. And I knew it had to be in story form, right? So last night, one of the things we were talking about at our membership meeting is they said, well, Alexa, we want you to stand up there and we want you to give some facts about Rotary. And I'm like, no, nobody cares. And right, that first, if I stand up there and give a bunch of facts, and you're still in that observation, exactly, they're going to take their beer and go to the third floor.
Absolutely.
Right? That's not what they want to hear. That's not why they're here. They want to hear those stories. They want to hear those pieces that make the connection to the community.
I'd say that people are compelled by emotion, but they stay with data. Like, so what's interesting is like, I look at this survey and I go, man, I'm not really happy with that score. How do I change that? Yeah. Like, because it is important to me emotionally and all of that, and going, I don't really love that. Yeah. I don't love that. So the data is the trailing fact, like you were saying. And so how do you convey something that's emotional? I mean, I guess that would be the pitch, right? Like, so how do you convey emotion rather than logic? Go, like, for me, it was like, it saved my life.
Right.
My life was falling apart at the time. Yeah. And it saved my life. Done. End of story. Yeah. Like, I don't know how much. And then all of a sudden you're talking to somebody who's got a little bit of problem in their life and they're going, oh, wait a second here. This sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I better check this out.
I felt like I finally belonged. I felt so out of place in Minnesota. And I finally felt like I belonged.
I remember that.
I was no longer just a North Dakotan in Minnesota. I felt like I belonged. Oh, well, why? What were those things? Yeah. You know, and so you got to get them to sit down, and so don't talk at them, right? So at our membership event, our speakers only get 2 minutes to speak, and then there's 20 minutes of just free time to drink your beer, eat your apps, and browse, or not browse, excuse me, but mingle. Chat. Yeah, mingle. Thank you for a better word. Yeah. So it's telling that story, but we have to do a better job of just like sharing it out there. Do we have time for a quick story?
Yep.
Okay, so I was teaching a class to fourth graders. And this kid kept telling me about this great book he read. And it was such a great book. And it was about this kid who had to walk 4 miles to water, but then they got these wells and then they didn't have to walk, Miss Alexa. It was so wonderful. And he just went on and on and on. And he's like, you got to read this book. And I would see him every week when I was teaching. And he brought me the book. You should read this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Oh, thank you so much for sharing it. He was so passionate about this book. A couple weeks later, we're sitting in my kitchen. I'm making pancakes, and my son says, oh, Mom, I read this book. And it's about this kid who walks for water. And I was like, uh-huh. And he's like, and then Rotary built them wells, Mom. Mom, Rotary saved these kids' lives.
Isn't that incredible?
And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Yeah. And I just kind of sat there. I was like, nobody else is hearing this moment. Yeah. But it was because we don't shy away from talking about it, right? He's there. He was at that membership meeting last night. And so we tell the story. We don't shy away from it. We talk about the benefits. We include them. And we just have to do that with everybody, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
An interesting thing that made me think of is there's this phrase that I play in my head all the time when my ego gets a little out of control. And it's, be more involved and less impressed. Yep. And so to your point of like, as we're talking, it's kind of to wrap this up as like, how do you help educate people is be more involved with them. Yeah. Don't try to impress them or don't try to look impressive. Yeah. Go, what do you need? Yeah. Be curious about them and how to help them and then align with them instead of going, well, this is just so obvious. You should just join Rotary. I mean, because let's be honest, it is, but maybe for that person, it's not emotionally evident. It may make logical sense, but there is no emotional connection. Yeah. And so this has actually been a really fun conversation.
Just for me, I'm thinking about it. You know, you're going to enjoy it. You know, it's the right thing. Yeah. So that this is very, for me, as I try to struggle with this, I appreciate the conversation today. Well,
yeah, this was really fun.
I love that. Be curious about that person because, it goes back to the district. If you have an interest, we can fit you in. But again, what is that person looking for?
Yeah.
We can help them.
So we can take that away as kind of like the thing of this show is be curious as individuals, as members, be curious as clubs, be curious as a district, be curious.
Yeah.
Just continue to be curious about our members.
Yeah. Continue to learn. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been a great show. I feel like we could go for about 2 more hours, but time goes by fast.
It sure does.
Well, we'll be back after the break. You're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Chad Larson.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Be back.
Hey there, welcome back to Searching for Service. And just as a reminder, we are brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and
Russell Hampton, the #1 printer for Rotary in the country. You can check out our swag if you're watching online. You can check them out at russellhampton.com. But print everything. I got a lot of nice mugs, a nice hat, even a cutting board.
Yeah, and if your company needs printing needs, obviously this is a great option for you.
Yeah, or your club, or
the club too. Yeah.
So, well, welcome back. We had a great guest, Alexa, the executive director from District 5950.
Yep.
It was a great conversation. It was pretty cool to learn about their membership event. What a great learning experience, and something we can really.
Fascinating when you don't make it a membership event and you just make it hey, let's all get together and figure out how to add value to one another, and then all of a sudden you get members because there's additional value. That's pretty amazing. Yeah,
I'm be interested to hear a little bit more about it at the Funds and Friends event this weekend. So that'll be cool or next weekend, excuse me. Cool to hear some of the other people that have had success with events like that.
Yeah.
She's a great guest. I always learn too, we've learned a lot on the show about the district level and above, and even every time we have her, and I learn something more. Even when I talk to her, I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. And,
yeah,
it's interesting. And even what I didn't know before she came on was the actual full structure from international zone. I mean, I had some idea, but she really kind of broke it down.
Region, right?
Region, and so she's always a great guest. But I think we can all learn from the membership event, though.
Yeah. And, it's so nice too when you have guests on, and, one of the things that I love about this show is we kind of let it go where it wants to go and where there's real value. Like, she wasn't brought on here to talk about membership and to, specifically outline a project that they did with their club that was successful, but the conversation just kind of went there. Right.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that there's hidden value in every single interview that we have that's just outside of the subject matter. And it's a really fun thing for us as the hosts to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, and we did your interview not too long ago of a year in, and these are the little things that, you're exposed to where, if you're just going to club meetings and stuff, you're not exposed to it. So it's really fun to be
on that interview, which was cool. Before it aired, I got an email that our club was doing an orientation. I was like, wow, what good timing. But it was really cool because that was one thing we talked about was, as a new member wanting to have a little more orientation, and without having heard that show, our club's doing one.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool that our club president asked if I could give her some feedback. I said, absolutely. Because that's she heard the show too. So
something too for our listeners is if your club is now doing a club orientation because of the interview with Chad, email the show at searchingforserviceshow@gmail.com and let us know, or comment in our social media. We'd love to hear that. That's a nice measurement tool for the show where we can
really impact
we're impacting clubs.
Yeah.
And we impacted ours.
Yeah. Like Alexa said, you can reach out to her on the membership idea, or reach out to the show too, because that was another one that was pretty cool to learn about.
What was besides the membership event, in discussing with Alexa, who's always a great interview, by the way, what was the other takeaway that you really?
Well, I loved her story at the end where she was talking about how her son was, really getting exposed to Rotary from them, but then all of a sudden he read a book at school, and then was talking about how Rotary got water. And I
That's
don't
right,
remember
because it was about a group that brought water to and it was
so
like
she
it was a
came
Rotary
home and
project.
he came home and talked to her about how Rotary brought water, fresh water to a different part of the world, which was and we always love stories, but that one was a pretty cool one to hear.
That was a good story.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was always impactful, and we'll I'm sure have Alexa on again because she's a wealth of knowledge that brings a whole different aspect to.
Well, and she
Rotary.
supported the show so much too.
Yeah,
and it's been nice. One of the challenges that we kind of diagnosed with the show is you have annual change at the leadership level, whereas Alexa's kind of that common piece that we can really align with and help drive a project like ours that's supposed to be in it for the long haul over the course of many years.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about with her. We've talked about a commonality through which, there's the blessing of you have change right away, which forces change.
Yeah.
But also having somebody like her in place that really keeps some consistency and has that understanding to explain as there's change every year with leadership and implementing different programs and ideas. You have somebody who really understands what it takes to implement and what needs to stay consistent.
Well, and what's interesting too is, if there's other projects that are going to be like ours, where it's multi-year or, it just extends a long period of time, where maybe that partnership with that position in your district, in your specific district, if your district has one, is a really nice tool. And, you can model what we've done and partnering with that person to create consistency and to really advocate for your show too. Or advocate for your cause, because maybe they have an exposure to it that the incoming leadership doesn't have and doesn't understand. That's not their fault.
No.
They've got 9,000 other things on their mind. Right. And, they've probably got their preloaded objectives and that's great.
And ideas.
Yep. And so maybe as a really good takeaway from this last episode with Alexa and kind of our learning process over the last few months has been, if your project is ongoing longer than the term of your district governor and or your president, if it's the club level, a really nice alignment is that district.
Yeah. And if you don't have that, finding somebody that is that consistent at that level.
There's always somebody.
Yeah. I think there's more, we've met people through the show that have that consistency too. Mm-hmm. So finding
I think of Mary Brindle in our club, right? Like she's like the consistent piece that goes.
And there's always, I think most projects, if not all, are not looking to be short term.
Yeah.
That's why we do this, is to have impact, and you grow impact.
Love it. What a great last takeaway. So Alexa, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
And as a reminder, it is time to start searching.
Stop searching.
Stop searching and start serving.
There we go. We got it. Stop searching and start serving. Thanks for listening.